Welcome to Light Over Heat with Professor David Yamani. The professor is in. I'm here for my office hours to take your questions, so fire away. I'm excited to try out this new format of answering people's questions in a somewhat more informal manner than a lot of my videos, much like I would for students who come to my office hours. So today's question comes from Dennis Eckert 73 from my YouTube channel, and he says, do you have any advice for someone who's never written a book about how to get started? He says that he's been working with Moms Demand Action since 2018, and he wants to write a book about the journey of a gun nut. And so the first thing I'd say is, I think that's an amazing thing to write about. You know, there's been a lot of occasions of people who are sort of outside gun culture coming in, doing some observations and writing about American gun culture and gun owners, but there's been fewer, people who are within the gun culture who have ventured into the gun violence prevention movement or worked with gun violence prevention organizations and written about what they observed there. And I think this would be a book that I would be really interested in reading. So, but this is not exactly the question. The question is, how do you get started? And I'm reminded of a conversation I had with a student over lunch when I was teaching at the University of Notre Dame, and a book that I had written was just coming out, and the student asked me, how do you write a book? And I thought for a moment, and I replied, one sentence at a time. And that's really fundamentally true even today, now that I've written several books, and I just completed my 80,000 word manuscript on American gun culture, but I didn't write 80,000 words. I wrote one sentence at a time and pieced it together into a coherent 80,000 word book. So, my advice then is, if you want to get started writing a book, just get started writing. Find a place that you're comfortable writing. It could be completely private. It could be public. I started when I got this project going on American gun culture in 2012. I wasn't anybody in that field. I didn't have any outlets I could write for professionally. So I started my Gun Culture 2.0 blog, and I really was writing that blog for myself, just to give myself a kind of imagined audience to write to. And in those, first year, I probably had fewer than 1,000 page views. It grew considerably since then, but I really, oftentimes when I sit down to blog, even today, it's just a place for me to start articulating my ideas. And when I was writing my book, I was certainly going back through and to my blogs as sources of information, almost like reporters' notebooks or like an ethnographer's field notes, although public. And the virtue of them being public is that people may start paying attention to what you're writing. They may give you encouragement, they may give you ideas. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, just write in your own notebooks, write in your own word processing document. But whatever you do, just start writing. At the end of the day, make sure you write some reflections on what you observed during that day, or if you attend an event, write down what you think there. Or I always carry a notebook with me, something like this, maybe something a little bigger, something a little smaller. And anytime I get an idea, I write it down, and then I'll go back through those little jotted notes and try to elaborate them little by little. So just the way you write a book is you just start writing the book. Figure out your why. So, early on in my study of guns, my why was to try to bring light over heat to this controversial issue of guns. This is what sustains me through the struggles, the hope and the desire to make a difference in the way we talk about guns in American society. And whether I get 10 people who read a blog post or 100 people who watch a video, or 1,000 people who download an article I wrote. It doesn't really matter. My goal is the same, and that's what motivates me. So think about, what is it that's driving you and motivating you to do this? Write it down. In my office at home, I have a mission statement that, I oftentimes look to. Thanks to John Correa for encouraging me to have a mission statement and put my mission first in everything I do. Keeps me directed, keeps me motivated, and so again, what's your why? The next thing is, if you're going to be serious about writing, if you're not already a writer, hone your craft. I, for the bulk of my academic career, wrote academic articles and books and textbooks, and this is a particular genre of writing that doesn't place a premium on the beauty or the creativity of the writing. It's a very functional form. It's a genre that's meant to be easily read and understood by people within the field that I'm working in. But more recently, I have sort of wanted to reach broader audiences, and so I've taken the actual process of writing or the craft of writing more seriously. So, I read books. I've actually read this book a number of times, and I revisit it quite frequently. William Zinzer's On Writing Well. It's a classic guide to writing nonfiction. Has a lot of very easily implementable ideas about the craft of writing. So that's something that I benefit from. But there's all sorts of books. If you go into your local bookstore or local library or online, you find things like The Writer's Practice, building confidence in your nonfiction writing, and it gives advice and exercises for you to do to practice. Another book I enjoyed reading was by the Pulitzer Prize-winning author Tracy Kidder and his editor Richard Todd, called Good Prose, The Art of Nonfiction. Again, I'm not trying to become a full-time nonfiction writer, but if I want to convey my ideas to some broader audience, I think it's worthwhile to work on this craft. There are other online courses that you can take if you get serious about nonfiction writing. And the other thing I'd say is that many places have local writing groups. We have a Winston-Salem Writers Group I'm sometimes involved with, sometimes not. They really tend to focus more on fiction writing, but do something where you find a local group that may be supportive of you in this endeavor, or even find one or two other people. For the past, can't even count the number of years from before I studied guns, I have a writing accountability partner who's another professor here at Wake Forest, and we share our work with each other, we criticize each other's works, we motivate each other, we encourage each other, we commiserate with each other. It makes what is otherwise a fairly solitary process of writing a little bit easier to do. So think about that. And then in the end, my last note here is, whatever you choose to do with this book, whether you want it to be a New York Times bestseller, whether you just want to self-publish it, whether you just write it and it never gets published, write the book for yourself. I really went through the ringer, as some of you know, going through 33 rejections at publishers, trying to find someone willing to publish my book, Gun Curious. But in the end, what that made me realize is that I have to write for myself. And the book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, the music producer, was really crucial in getting me through some dark times there, because he's produced some of the biggest hits and artists in contemporary American music, but at the essence of the work for him is a creative act, an act of an artist, a creative artist. And as a writer, if you think of yourself as a creative artist, then the only person you have to satisfy and the only audience for your work that truly matters at the end is yourself. And so when I submitted my final book manuscript, of course I hope that people will read it, not because I want to buy a new yacht, but because I want to get the ideas out in the public sphere. But even if nobody other than my friends or family read this book, the book is an authentic expression of what I truly know about American gun culture. And in the end of the day, that's enough. So from start to finish, this is a lot of words. I guess I have a lot more thoughts about writing than I thought going into this video. But at the end of the day, how do you start writing a book? You just start writing, right? Figure out whether you're going to just write for yourself or a broader audience, whether you're going to write just to your word processor or in notebooks, or you're going to start a blog or something like that, right? But all along through the process, keep in mind, why am I doing this, right? And at the end of the day, hopefully, the big reason that you're doing it is because you feel like you have something to say, and that's the most important thing. Good luck with the book. Like I said at the start, I'm really interested in that topic. I hope that you follow through with it. Maybe you just write an essay. Maybe you just write something for my Gun Culture 2.0 blog. Whatever it is, good luck, and definitely keep me posted. If you found this helpful, like, share this video so other people can see it. And if you have questions that you would like me to answer in my office hours, please send them to me. You can reach me in the comments here on YouTube. You can reach me through the contact pages on my blogs. You can Google my name and find my email address. I'm not hard to find, so please find me and let me know what questions you have.